Welcome to Are We There Yet? The podcast looking at the innovations emerging from the workshops, labs and secret test tracks of Hyundai. In this series, we get the latest on technology which is changing not just our vehicles, but our societies. From flying cars and vehicles that make us fall in love to some of the most exciting and innovative electric cars on the planet.
If you wanted to sum it up in 3 seconds, if I bumped into you, Suzi, in the corridor and you said, "What is that?" I would call it the SUEV.
Today, we're looking at what happens when you put two winners together and how teamwork is the key to success. Hyundai have been involved in football for over 20 years, first as a FIFA partner and then sponsoring some of Europe's biggest clubs, including Atletico Madrid, AS Roma, Hertha Berlin and Eintracht Frankfurt. Since 2018, Hyundai has been the global automotive partner for the Premier League superstars Chelsea FC, who are the current holders of the most coveted prize in club football, the UEFA Champions League. To discuss the partnership, how it works, what it has achieved, and how it has brought Hyundai and Chelsea together in the pursuit of their goals, we have two very special guests. I'm happy to welcome Guy Laurenc, CEO of Chelsea Football Club. In this role, Guy has overall responsibility for the day-to-day operations of the club, including the continuing development of Chelsea's commercial activities around the world, focusing on increasing club revenues. And I'd also like to give a warm welcome to Matt Dunnakey, Head of Marketing at Hyundai Motor UK. Matt is responsible for overseeing the marketing strategy and plays a key role in activating and expanding on Hyundai's successful relationship with Chelsea FC. This is Matt's 23rd year in the automotive industry, having worked for several of the brands across UK, Europe and China. Matt and Guy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everybody who loves football, and there are millions of us out there, we know that success isn't always guaranteed for your club. Believe me, I'm a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan. I know this far too well. And in spite of this, passion and undying love are always at the heart of every club. Now, Guy, I know that you don't tend to do very many interviews, so thank you. It's a real privilege to have you with us today. But to begin with, I'd like to have a little bit of fun, get to know you, get to know Guy Laurenc. So I'm going to ask you 5 quick-fire questions about your passion for the game. Number 1, what's your first footballing memory?
Being rejected by the school football team.
The reason for that would be?
I wasn't very good at playing football.
Did you like it, though?
Not after that, no.
That's obviously left its mark.
Oh, yeah. Deeply scarred by that, I can tell you.
What was the first match that you went to?
First professional match was Chelsea, 1971.
So Chelsea is your football club that you're a fan of?
Yeah, my father was a Leicester fan, actually, but we lived in the area and therefore it was the logical club for me to follow.
And did you have a footballing hero as a child?
Peter Benetti. Without any shadow of a doubt. He was just exemplified sportsmanship, skill, determination, and he was around a long time. You know, he was a real hero.
And if you could sign one player from footballing history, I'm wondering whether you're going to repeat the same name then, at the peak of their powers, who would it be?
I'd probably go for Pelé, actually.
You don't even need to explain that one, really. What's been your proudest achievement with the club so far, would you say?
Well, that makes it sound like it's something I did single-handedly, but everything we do is very much as a club, as a team. So I'd say from a club point of view, it would be both the men and the women's team reaching their respective Champions League finals last season. It was an incredible period for me and for the whole club.
Yeah, a real crest of a wave. That must have been joyous down in London while that was going on. You've worked for some of the world's biggest brands. How did your career bring you to the Stamford Bridge boardroom? I can imagine as a fan, it was a joy. Oh,
it's certainly a joy. I actually started in the music industry with Chrysalis Records, and then I went into film and then TV. And then after that, set up an internet company, or helped set up one, and it was acquired by Vodafone, and I worked for them for 13 years. And then I went to Canada to run a company that actually combined all of that. So they had mobile, they had internet and cable TV, and they also own sports teams. And I'd never done sports teams before, and really enjoyed that. And so when I came back to the UK, I got the opportunity to join Chelsea.
Thanks, Guy. I'd like to bring Matt in now. Matt, what led you into the automotive industry?
I think it was probably inevitable for me. I'm a huge car nerd. I've always been extremely passionate about cars and all things automotive, and I guess it was kind of on the cards that I would end up in the car industry. I studied law, so at one point it wasn't looking like I was going to end up in automotive, but I realised that I was going to follow my heart and went straight from university into the car industry, and I've been there since. A
garage full of cars, possibly?
There is, yeah. I feel very, very privileged. I have a career in automotive. Automotive is also my hobby, so I count myself very, very lucky. But yes, I have 3 classic cars at home. But before I get challenged on that, I do drive a Kona electric as my daily wheels. So I offset any carbon footprint with an electric car.
So aside of the Kona, which you would obviously save, but if the garage was to set alight, which of the 3 classic cars would you save?
Oh, that's like asking which child to send to university. That's a terrible
I know, but
question.
Everyone has a favourite.
I have a 1983 Mercedes SL500, which would be the one I'd be driving out the garage if it were on fire, definitely.
Okay, that's fair enough. What does your role as head of marketing involve? What does it look like?
So my role really at Hyundai is to set the marketing strategy, set the direction of the brand. We've been in the UK now for 40 years, but there's still work to be done in Hyundai, and it's really my job to try and make the brand as visible as possible and also make the brand relevant. So we live and breathe for our customers. Our customers are what make the business what it is today, and I have to make sure that the way we represent the brand, what we do, our communications, our activities and our experiences are all relevant to our customers and meeting their needs. And that's why, I guess, as part of my remit, I'm very lucky to be able to work directly with Chelsea and really develop that relationship and make sure it's meeting the needs of not only our customers, but also Chelsea fans as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot on this podcast about sustainability. We've sort of got 2 big superpowers here come together, haven't we, in a partnership? So it's very dynamic.
Yeah, it is. That's one of the real beauties of the partnership for me. The fact that Chelsea is so extremely focused on sustainability is what makes our partnership work. We are very, very aligned.
Obviously, very respectful and a fan of Chelsea, but football, not your number one passion. I mean, I'm hearing that you're not exactly a football fan, Matt.
I'm not. I was laughing at Guy's comment earlier because I also was not picked for the football team, but I would bet my 3 cars in the garage that I was worse than Guy.
What's this about Richard Branson and a hotel in North Yorkshire while you were at university?
It actually funded my beer money during university. So I used to work at a hotel in North Yorkshire, which was owned by Richard Branson at the time, as their resident pianist. So used to get a lot of requests, the occasional tip at Christmas. It was a great job because it was only a few hours a week, but it allowed me to go and enjoy the social side of university at the same time.
Sounds good. Lots of students putting bread in your jar, as Billy Joel once said.
Exactly.
Quite a small world, really, isn't it, with you and your love of pianos? And Guy, I believe that your family own John Broadwood and Sons pianos, a very prestigious and one of the UK's oldest piano companies. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Together with 2 cousins, actually. The company's been going since 1728, and it still has the royal warrant for making pianos, and we have a number of pianos in the different palaces, which we still maintain.
How beautiful. So do you play?
I'm as good at piano as I am at playing football.
There's a theme going here. Okay. Let's talk about the success being in the DNA of Chelsea and Hyundai. Guy, we know what the success looks like on the football pitch. Chelsea know it especially well. But what does success off the pitch look like for the CEO?
I think actually people say they know what it looks like on the football pitch, but they forget that, well, first of all, we have a lot of football pitches and we have a lot of different teams. So not only do we have the men's team, but we also have the women's team. We also have one of the best academies in the world for young boys. And we also have one of the largest charitable foundations as well in the Premier League.
It seems as though the women's game has jumped hugely in the last 4 years, particularly, I would say, in terms of people recognising it and attendance of the matches. Do you see the trajectory continue to go up in the same manner?
Oh, I think we're just at the start. I mean, just to give you one stat, the Chelsea women's team has a bigger social media following than 12 of the men's Premier League teams. It's actually the second most followed women's team in any sport in the world.
Emma Hayes seems to be doing an incredible job, winning awards all over the place. She's so fantastic to listen to. Do you put a lot of this popularity, or some of this popularity at least, down to her?
Well, Emma is a force of nature. There's no doubt about that. And we all love her. But again, as with everything, she's surrounded by a huge team of people who support her. So she is very much the leader. But she has a fantastic team around her that support her every single day. And then she has some great players who are very committed to winning. And that chemistry and that combination of skill and dedication to what they're focused on then creates great results. And as the leader then, of course, she tends to get the limelight from that. But she would be the first to say that it's only as a consequence of the team around her.
So being part of an incredibly successful team then, as the CEO, I'm sure no day is the same. There's no routine in your job. But what kind of things greet you as you walk through the door in the morning?
It's usually agony or ecstasy, depending on what happened the night before, to be honest. With so many teams, including the academy, you don't go through a day without having a game the night before, which then sets the mode for how you sleep that night and then dictates how you feel in the morning. We have a wide-ranging agenda that comes through the club in any one day and passes over my desk, obviously from the men's, the women's, the academy, our foundation, and then we run 2 large stadiums. We do an awful lot of hospitality. And of course, a lot of it is underpinned by our sponsorships with people like Hyundai, who have a huge range of demand on us in terms of creating materials. So we're creating materials for across the world. We run the largest soccer podcast in America. We run the largest club TV program in China, same in India. And then we're servicing sponsor requests on a daily basis. We can do upwards of 120 activations per month across club channels and sponsor channels. So it's a little bit like juggling, because you start the day with a plan, but it quickly gets destroyed. And then you're sort of dealing with inbound missiles from various different directions and working out the best way of ensuring that everything keeps on track. That's the joy of the job, really. You don't actually know what's going to hit you when you walk in through the front door.
Hyundai isn't shy of success either. 2021 brought a number of prestigious accolades, didn't it, Matt?
It certainly did. I've never really seen a period like this in the car industry, not in 23 years. And the transition that we're going through at the moment from combustion to electric has just really turned everything on its head. But it's probably the most exciting time I've ever seen in the car industry. It really is incredible. And Hyundai's just really taking advantage of that. We've had some fantastic product coming through. It's really brought a whole new range of people to the brand who would have maybe never previously considered Hyundai, and that's down to the strength of the product and the fact that we're meeting the needs of customers through a whole range of electric cars. But the proof's in the pudding. We have won a number of awards this year, over 40 awards in the UK for our new products, which we're very proud of. But what I'm probably most proud of is the fact that we're bringing in a whole new range of customers into the brand. We're seeing record levels of interest in the brand.
To be named as the manufacturer of the year by Top Gear magazine must have been pretty special as well.
Yeah, we're very proud of it. We're really proud of it. And a lot of these awards are obviously voted for by the media, and that relationship is very important to us, and we work very hard to maintain that relationship. But there are many awards that are actually awarded by customers. That says a lot to me when our customers can vote our brand as the best out of all of the brands. It really is incredible.
We've touched on the women's team at Chelsea, but I'd like to just delve a little deeper, if I may. The significant role in supporting the team, what does that involve?
Yeah, so this is something I'm really personally proud of. You know, listening to Guy there about the team are just the team, I think that's hugely rewarding to hear, and that's why we were really proud to be able to support the women's team by providing them with Kona electrics. Not only were we able to give them cars and get them driving Hyundai product, these cars were all electric, which I know was very well received by the team, and we follow them closely on social media, and they seem to be really enjoying them and have adapted very quickly to electric cars, which is fantastic. Going back to the point around the alignment between Chelsea and Hyundai, I think this really sums it up, the fact that we can support great initiatives like this.
Well, let's have a look at how you've both partnered together and what has made that partnership so successful over the past 4 years. Because, Guy, you were responsible for negotiating the partnership deal in the first place. Is there anything that's inspired you or surprised you about working with Hyundai?
Well, first to say, I was part of a team that did the negotiations, because literally everything we do is as a team. But our philosophy is very simple. We want to partner with brands that are either leaders in their field or innovators, and in simple terms, Hyundai was both. And so it was a bit of a slam dunk from our side, and it was a case of explaining to them the opportunities of partnering with a big brand. Hyundai have a lot of experience in football, so that didn't take too long. And then just discussing what we had in common. And we do have a lot of themes in common, like sustainability. And therefore, we felt we could learn a lot from them, but also we could help amplify the work that they're doing in the electric area to their customers and potential customers. And so it was a good fit.
And Matt, from your side, how did the partnership take shape? And what does it mean to partner with one of the biggest football clubs in the world? And what value does that bring to Hyundai as a brand?
Well, guess very, very similar to Guy. We have had a long presence in football for the last 20 years as a brand. But really the relationship with Chelsea was not cemented until the last few years. And the reason that came about was exactly as we've talked about today. It was an alignment of values. It was an alignment of goals. And it was the fact that the brands are really trying to win. And that's exactly what we're both trying to do. But what it's doing is not just putting a logo on a shirt. It's publicly demonstrating that we are heading the same way. We've got the same goals. We're both very passionate about sustainability and winning, and we both put our customers first. So it really is a perfect match.
Let's just dig a little bit deeper then. You're talking about the match day visibility there and the logo on the shirt. You've both partnered on some what seem to be really great activations and campaigns. Can you talk us through some of those and what you wanted to achieve in terms of how they performed?
So, yeah, we've done some amazing activations with Chelsea over the last few years. Some I'm particularly proud of. We've done something called the Electric Blues training session, which allowed us to showcase the new Ioniq 5, which is the latest electric car from Hyundai. And we were actually working with the players, which is always hugely exciting when we're able to do content that involves the Chelsea players. And they really got behind it. We set them a challenge, and the challenge was related to a direct feature of the car, which is the fact that it can charge from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, which is quite remarkable in itself. But it gave us an element of jeopardy for the players because they then had to do a series of challenges in 18 minutes. Whilst the car was rapid charging in the background. And that was a great film. It's still available on YouTube and still gets a huge number of interest and visits. So what we'd like to do is build on that and hopefully do some more content with the players this year. The other activity I'm really proud of is our work with what we call Hyundai FC. And this is us working directly in partnership with Chelsea and their coaches to support 22 junior football teams across the UK. That's been running since 2019, and we're just going into our third season. And essentially we partner clubs with local Hyundai dealerships, and then every year we work with the Chelsea team to send out coaches to visit these clubs and help train the kids. So it's a really, really great initiative, and it helps take Chelsea out into the UK to some of these smaller clubs, and it also works with the local dealers to give them support to the local football clubs as well. So even when we were in lockdown, we were still able to host some virtual sessions. And in fact, one session, we did a Q&A with Frank Lampard, which was really, really successful.
That sounds really great. Guy, can you give us an idea about Turn the Blues Green campaign, please?
It came about from the very generous offer from Hyundai to supply electric cars to the women's team, which when I first heard about it, I thought, well, I'll go down and explain this to the team and see how many of the team are interested. So we had the meeting and they kind of went into a huddle and came back the next day. And I have to say I was rather shocked at how many cars they wanted. So it was with some trepidation I went back to Hyundai to give them the figure. They were very gracious, actually, and agreed to it. So we now have rather a lot of Hyundai cars at the training ground now. And in fact, we had to put in 6 dual charging points, which gives you an idea of the volume of cars. And since then, it's had a rub-off, because what's happened now is that the staff have now seen them. And so now the staff have started to go out and buy Hyundai off their own back, which has led to further requests for charging points. So I'm now drowning in requests for them, not only at the training ground, but also at the stadium.
It's interesting, isn't it? It wasn't really that long ago where electric cars were a little bit sniffed at, and now suddenly it's what everybody wants to have, and they're seen as a more sexy option of driving a car. And I suppose also for younger people looking up at their footballing heroes, driving their electric cars, it works on so many different levels, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
How's the partnership with Hyundai enabled Chelsea to increase its sustainability commitments? And are there any plans for Chelsea to become even greener this year?
We're pretty green, given the amount of pitches we have, to be honest. It was interesting, actually. Our head groundsman, having seen everything that was going on with the charging points and the cars and all the rest of it, actually came to me and said, look, we need to see if we can't learn from these guys. And so we actually went out and did a pilot to replace our lawnmowers with electric versions. Now, you might say, well, lawnmowers, what does that matter? But you've got to remember, we have 37 football pitches, which are cut pretty much every single day. And just in the sheer number of kilometres of grass we have to cut every day, it's enormous. So we decided to do a trial which started about a year and a half ago. We've now replaced 50% of our mowers with electric, and when the other ones come up for renewal, then we'll move over to the rest of the fleet, I suspect. So that was just one tiny example of how you see a sort of peer group leader like Hyundai demonstrating what they can do, and it rubbing off in a totally unrelated area, which is cutting grass. But it's not just that. I mean, we have a group at the club that look at all the different areas of running stadiums and training grounds and everything else we do from a sustainability point of view. But sometimes trying to get the right information on what can be done is difficult, and sometimes trying to understand the trade-offs and how you arbitrage as you move to a more sustainable way of working is quite difficult. And Hyundai has been really good to act as a sort of peer group leader to us and advising us how to think about these problems and how to go about them, even though in many cases it's got nothing to do with cars. So we see them as a bit of a role model in that respect.
That's interesting. So Matt, any other ways is this partnership enabling Hyundai and Chelsea to meet future goals of sustainability? In terms of the future, what are you thinking?
Well, I think for us at the moment, our commitment to sustainability is very much driven by the fact that we have now quite a high number of electric cars available on sale in the UK, with 3 fully electric cars. And that's why we wanted to work with Chelsea to introduce their team to these electric cars, because not only is it giving the whole women's team the opportunity to drive them through their communications, they're obviously talking about the fact that living with an electric car is actually pretty easy, and it's pretty exciting. And that for us is really, really important. But as Guy's just said there, many of these conversations go way beyond the car, way beyond the product. And that's why the meetings we have with Chelsea are actually very, very interesting and very exciting, because no idea is off the table and the cars are just one element of it. But that we've really enjoyed working with the club to have these discussions, talking about, the plastic used in the goal nets, the plastic used in the seats of the car, how everything ties in from a recycling perspective. We're going down some really interesting conversation routes at the moment around recycling and what we can do with some of those used plastics, whether it's from the car or from the stadiums, which we hopefully will come to fruition in the near future.
Yeah, and just to build on that, last season we took out and replaced 12,000 seats at the stadium, and I'm not sure we would have gone to the lengths to make sure they didn't go to landfill had it not been for Hyundai and the discussions we had with them about what the alternatives were, because we didn't know what the alternatives were other than landfill. So it's a good example of where it's prompted us and helped us as we go through this journey of sustainability.
Do you find that you, just touching on what you said there, you almost start to look at everything in a slightly different light, with the sustainability eyes, if you like? When you were just talking about the football nets, it made me think of Healthy Seas and the ghost nets. And I was thinking, I wonder whether there's something that they could do, another one of the Hyundai partners, to make football nets out of the ghost nets from the sea. It all starts to link up together, doesn't it?
It really does. And as Guy said there, I think we bounce off each other incredibly well, because these are the kind of conversations we're having. And we moved away from the car in many of these conversations. And you're right, the actual use of fishing nets to make goal nets has been discussed. And if that does happen, then I think that would be incredible, because it just shows the power of thought when two giant brands can get together.
And working with a brand like Chelsea, who are so influential globally, you can imagine that if the nets worked for goal nets, you could see that could become perhaps something global as well. The seeds start to plant, don't they? And that's how it grows. In this podcast, we ask, are we there yet? In terms of a global partnership, I bet you're both going to tell me that there's always so much more to do. You both talked a lot about the ways the partnership came together over the last 3 years. Sort of specifically in the future, in terms of activations and ideas, can you tell us anything about what may happen?
You almost answered the question for us, though, because the only constant in life is change. And therefore, in the same way that you end a season, you start a new season, so we do initiatives together, and then that just creates a catalyst to do more stuff together. So you can't prescribe what it's going to be because the opportunities in sustainability are changing so fast, and therefore new things are opening up each year. As long as your headset is right in terms of we want to continue down this path, and both of us do, then there'll always be new initiatives and there'll always be new things to discuss. Simple as that.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in answer to your question directly, are we there yet? No, we're not. And even though we've managed to fill a good amount of time with discussion around all of the activities we're doing around sustainability, I think we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more we could do. And that's why I'm really looking forward to the next year where we can genuinely broaden our horizons, really think outside the box and just figure out between us how we can do a lot more than we're currently doing. But I would say we've made a good start. We've made a really good start already. We're building on some really strong foundations, but there is a lot more to come, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like a really exciting ongoing partnership. Best of luck to Chelsea this season. I'm saying it through slightly gritted teeth, being a Wolves fan, but we are generous. Thank you for talking to us today. What a pleasure it's been. Where can listeners find out more? First of all, Guy, about Chelsea?
Well, our app is the best way to find out about Chelsea. I think it's the most downloaded soccer app in the world now. So
Okay, so the Chelsea app, and Matt, for you, the Hyundai website? Yeah,
the Hyundai website is obviously the first starting point, hyundai.co.uk, but a lot of our content, a lot of the communication around these activations and exciting events with Chelsea are delivered through our social media channels as well. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're also on Twitter. Just look for Hyundai UK.
Thanks, gentlemen. And if you're excited by cutting-edge design, electric vehicles, sustainability, and the projects Hyundai are leading, you can find out more at Hyundai.com. And make sure you follow or subscribe to the Are We There Yet podcast from your usual podcast provider. It means that you'll never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.